Welcome back, folks. This is our Cell Organelles Notes Continued, Part 3, our second half of our cell organelles. So we're looking at the later organelles on our list of organelles.
And the first organelle that we're going to look at is the cytoplasm, which is everything in between the cell membrane and the nucleus of the cell. Sorry, I should have grabbed this while before we got going here. So here's my, again, I whittled this. So you've got the cell membrane, nucleus, cytoplasm is everything in between there. It's a kind of watery fluid environment that is, I guess, basically provides a place for chemical reactions to happen, for the organelles to hang out, and just the general day-to-day workings of the cell to occur, right? It's just the area within the cell that it's like in a cookie factory, right? We're talking about organelles being parts of a cookie factory. If you were taking a tour of a cookie factory, the cytoplasm would be kind of like the air filling up the space inside the factory, maybe the floor space where all the machines and people are found and do their work. So that's the cytoplasm.
So next up, we have the endoplasmic reticulum, which is sometimes abbreviated just ER. And it's basically just kind of this grouping of all these like tubes and things moving around. And we have kind of two different types of ER. So we have our rough endoplasmic reticulum that has ribosomes on it, and it's involved in making proteins. So when you're looking at the cell, Mr. Kemner is pointing out, it's the one kind of that has all the little dots on it. That's how you can tell it's the rough ER. It makes it look like it has a rough surface. And then our smooth ER lacks those ribosomes, so it does not have all those little dots on it. And instead, it's going to be involved in making like lipids and oil. So our endoplasmic reticulum is for making kind of various things, and the rough is for making proteins. The smooth is for lipids and oils. And in our cookie factory analogy, this is kind of like the assembly line. So it's kind of moving things along to the different tools or like mixers or things that need to be accomplished to make the cookies. And I believe we have a photo here, yeah, of our ER. So we can see on the bottom here with all of our little dots, those are all of our little ribosomes. That is our rough endoplasmic reticulum. And up top in the left here, we can see our smooth ER without those ribosomes. And so the ER kind of hovers around like the nucleus in the center of the cell. So we can see the purple nucleus right there.
All right. I've got the Golgi Apparatus. It's a big membranous structure. A lot of people think it looks kind of like a stack of pancakes with syrup dripping off it. If you're hungry anyway, that's what it looks like. And this, it packages, modifies, and exports proteins and other cell products from the cell. I like to think of it in our factory, this would be the shipping department. Okay, they're going to grab all the various cookies, put them in their boxes. They're going to assemble the boxes, put the cookies in the boxes. This store is getting Thin Mints, and this one's getting Sandies, and this one's getting the...
You went to the same place. My brain just went to Girl Scout cookies just then too.
I had those for a couple of years actually. But it takes all these different ones and puts them in the package and then ships it out to that store. And then a different one will get the chocolate chip and the fudge ones and ship it out there. Or they might ship a few around within the cell too and ship it, up to the nucleus, elsewhere in the cell for quality control or workers energized so they can keep working or whatever. So Golgi Apparatus takes all these products that are made in the cell, packages them, maybe modifies them a little bit, and then exports them where they need to go, whether in the cell or out of the cell.
Cell wall is the next one. Again, this is plants only, if we're talking about plants and animal cells, as we're doing here. As Mr. Hamele said before, fungi and bacteria have cell walls as well. But anyway, cell wall in plants. This is located outside of the cell. Outside the cell membrane. Again, it's a thick, rigid structure. Oh, good, you've got the diagram down there. The green, if you're following Mr. Hamele's red dot, the green border around the cell, that's the cell wall. It provides structure, support, protection for the cell. It's made out of a material called cellulose, which is a polysaccharide. It's built from glucose, one of our carbohydrates that we looked at last unit. But anyway, in our cookie factory, the cell wall, you could think of it like the steel beams that are providing rigid support to hold the walls and the ceiling up. Maybe the bricks around the outside of the factory, if it's a brick-walled factory. The bricks around the outside that protect the outside of the factory from weather and damage and things like that. So that would be the equivalent of the cell wall for the factory.
And just want to clarify, the cell wall is different than the cell membrane. The cell wall is kind of the bones for plants, right? They don't have bones, so the cell wall helps hold them up, gives them support, gives them structure. And the cell membrane just inside that, you remember from earlier, the cell membrane is what kind of controls what's able to go in and out of the cell. It's much more selective. It's like the security guards or the doors and windows, little key fobs, and only the right people can get in and out. So things aren't stolen or people don't get in there and steal all the cookies. Whereas the cell wall, it's supportive, but it's not really keeping anything out. It's porous, so to speak.
All right, next up is the lysosomes. So lysosome is basically just kind of this round membranous sac in cells, and their kind of job is to break down old and damaged organelles, or to break down basically any kind of foreign materials coming in. So in our cookie factory, we can think of it kind of as like the recycling, the garbage, the custodians, maybe kind of cleaning things up. And so they're full of digestive enzymes so that they can do their job of breaking down these various things kind of coming in and out of the cell. I believe we have a picture on the next slide that's got a lot of stuff going on. But basically we can see kind of all these little like things kind of moving into the cell. We see then lysosome labeled in the center there. So again, our lysosomes are, I don't know, kind of moving around our cells, cleaning things up, taking care of anything that's kind of broken, damaged, or again, foreign kind of invaders, bacteria, things like that.
All right, and I believe this is our last organelle, the vacuole. Vacuole comes from the root of being vacuous, or big empty space. Okay, like Mr. Kemeter's head is vacuous. But it's not really empty. It stores excess water, food, and other materials. Now, both plant and animals have vacuoles.
Wait, did you just make fun of me?
No, that was a compliment.
He would never.
I was good.
But you know, both plants and animals have vacuoles. But we talked about with plant cells earlier on that they have a big central vacuole. They got just a huge one that takes up a lot of space and helps control. It's kind of like the inner tube on a tire, keeping them rigid. They're not the only things with vacuoles. Animals have them, but they're just smaller. But they store water, food, and other materials. They're kind of like, they're just the warehouse of the factory, right? This is where you put all those cookies that you made too many of, and you're storing them until somebody orders them and you can ship them off somewhere or somebody needs them. It's just the warehouse of the cell. And I believe, yep, here's a picture. So here you can see in the plant, we've got the big central vacuole. Okay. And there's some little other vacuoles in there. But in the animal, we've got just a number of little vacuoles floating around in the animal cell over here. But we got our nucleus in the middle, and just to kind of pull a lot of these together, this nucleus has got a lot of DNA in it, and the DNA has the instructions for making our proteins.
Our cookies.
And our proteins, like the enzymes, control all the chemical reactions and everything else that's happening in our cell. So the DNA will send its message out to the little ribosomes right here, telling them what kind of proteins to make. They'll make those proteins. If they're on the endoplasmic reticulum, they'll make the proteins and maybe stick them onto some phospholipids to make some cell membranes or something. It'll get sent through here, kind of like down a conveyor belt. It'll ship them then to the Golgi. The Golgi will take these proteins, like these cookies that we made, right? It'll put them all together. So nucleus is kind of like the manager, right? DNA is like the recipe for the cookies. Ribosomes are the mixers and the cutters. The endoplasmic reticulum kind of puts those things together and ships them and gets them all ready to go. Gets them to the shipping department, the Golgi Apparatus, which packages them up and sends them to different places. Some of them get shipped out of the cell, and some get shipped to other parts within the cell. And that kind of pulls, not quite all the organelles we talked about, but many of them, and shows you a little bit of how they work together.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's how thinking and sensing and all sorts of digestion. You have to imagine all the little cells inside of your body and all those little organelles doing those jobs, and collectively that makes you. And that's a pretty neat thing, I think. I sometimes just, it's cool. That's why I like biology, and that's why you like this class. I know you say you don't, but I know you do. All right, I think, is that, now we're done?
Now we're done.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Have a good one, folks. We'll see you next time.
Aloha.